Hey review family, keep it tight. My name is Jay Morse, the review guy, reviewing music for the love of music, and I'm back again to bring you another video. And in this one I'm going to be covering the new Amity Affliction record entitled Everyone Loves You Once You Leave Them. Good title, that's a good title, a true title. This is the 7th studio-length album from the Australian metalcore and post-hardcore band, the Amity Affliction. Birthed near the time of the whole scenecore craze coming from the whole post-hardcore emo blend and the melodic hardcore edge. They came out the other side sounding not too different from their previous material, but different enough to where they separated themselves a bit. This can especially be said about their 2018 album, their last full-length, Misery, which I did actually cover at the time. Most of the reason this was different is the introduction of alternative rock elements and especially electronic elements over their instrumentation, almost synth-pop laden instrumentals. And I just want to jump right into this record. A lot of the same reasons that I had somewhat of an issue with Misery from an instrumental point of view kind of carries over here. For one, a lot of the verses can feel a little bit underwhelming and almost have the radio rock habit of having a lot of build-up just for a massive chorus. There's one too many verses on this record that just leave me scratching my head. And also, I'm not a fan of how the electronics are implemented. I mean, this album does have a lot of the heaviness that made a lot of their original material have a raw and rigid quality, but it's the way everything is compressed and equalized and the way the production sounds and the way these synths come on that just makes it sound a little bit intrusive to listen to. And to put it bluntly, I think the middle section does slog a little bit. The first half is super strong. I was really getting into this record. And even leading up to this record, the single All My Friends Are Dead is a fantastic track. It has the really throttling heavy riffs, but also the explosive chorus that tugs at the heartstrings a little bit, even if it's a little bit trope-filled. And speaking of trope-filled, Soak Me in Bleach and All I Do Is Sink really do play on cliches. And for the most part, there aren't any lyrics on here that are that mind-blowing for the genre. I'm not saying they aren't emotional, I'm not saying they're not coming from good intentions or anything like that, just nothing mind-blowing, nothing that made me go like, wow, that's a really deep lyric or a really good lyric. And there are some choruses on this record that are downright obtrusive. Not to mention there are some choruses on this record that are just downright horrendous. Baltimore Rain comes to mind. I wonder how long it took to write this. I'm gonna put it somewhere on the screen. This prophetic lyricism. Not to mention, I think this borderline trap EDM electronic bit on this track, I don't think that it fits very well, and I'm not saying it couldn't fit well because there are some really good alternative rock, alternative metal, metalcore, post-hardcore bands that incorporate electronics into their music to make it sound more interesting. I think I Prevail does it pretty good. I think that Sempiternal Era Bring Me the Horizon did it pretty good, and there are countless gent bands that incorporate electronics. So for it to sound not only a little bit sloppy, but unmistakably lazy, I just don't understand. It's not like they're just dipping their feet into the well. Misery was them dipping their feet into the well. That's when they were starting up their electronic bits. So for it to honestly sound worse than it did on Misery, I'm not really a fan of that. It's the type of thing that almost gives me the impression that they just kind of threw them in for a little bit of an extra oomph, but they actually ended up making it worse in some way. It ended up backfiring on them. Not to mention there are bits of the track Forever that just sound like a watered down, diluted version of what they did on All My Friends Are Dead. And that kind of leads me into the final thing that I'm going to talk a little bit about. The songwriting isn't that strong. For someone that's heard a lot of metalcore or post-hardcore, I feel like it's going to be able to be identified instantaneously that from a songwriting department, whether it be the rhythm guitar riffs, whether it be the drum lines, whether it be the vocal lines, it's unoriginal, if not just straight up derivative. It makes me a little sad because I was not able to get into Misery either for a lot of the same reasons that I wasn't able to get into this record. And the fact that they carried over, but somehow to some degree worse, I just don't understand. They have edge on this record. They have that melodic hardcore edge that makes them come through with some cool melodies, but those melodies aren't groundbreaking, and I'm not saying they need to be groundbreaking, but sound at least a little bit different than 100 other contemporary metalcore bands, some of which you yourself inspired that are kind of doing it better than you. For me, at least, this isn't a terrible record. It's one that I did enjoy on first listen, but with repeated listens, it's really showcasing that the band's dynamics just aren't there. They didn't have it on Misery, and they sure as hell don't have it here. I mean, it's kind of a harsh word to use, but mindless is a good word. Mindless is a good term, and not in a bad way, in a fun way. It's a fun metalcore and post-hardcore album with not much to offer. But if you either want just background noise, or if you just want something to get hyped to, get the blood rolling a little bit, some catchy riffs here or there, you might enjoy this. Otherwise, I just don't think that this album's particularly for me, and you might feel completely differently. Obviously, that's perfectly fine. But me personally, I'm going to be giving this album a 6 out of 10. And that is a wrap. Have you heard this new Amity Affliction record, Everyone Loves You Once You Leave Them? Go ahead and let me know in the comment section below what you thought about it. Maybe you felt differently. I'd love to discuss the record with you. Love to hear if you loved it a lot more than me. That's perfectly fine. Be sure to stay for the end screen to links and videos that you might be interested in. Like this video if you enjoyed it. Subscribe to join the review family today and smash that notification bell to be notified of my future uploads. You know who it is. My name is Jay Morris, the review guy, and I'm signing off saying farewell.